Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevins.com. Yes, it's another trying to fix video on the Xbox One controllers. So I've only got two left now. Let's open it up. Let's take them both out and see what we have, because might not want to do a version 1 again. So let's see what else we got in here. Right, we've got a black one and another black one. Right, okay, so it looks like they're both going to be the version 1s. Let's have a look. Right, this one says buttons only, I think. Not too sure. Let's see what this one says. A faulty. Let's do that. A fault. That might be. Oh, does it mean a fault or does it mean a fault? As in the button A. Not too sure. Do you know what? Let's do this one. Again, it's got a void sticker peeled off the back, so this was sold as second hand. I'm wondering now whether it was an actual company selling, or maybe it could have still been an individual, couldn't it, and just putting a sticker on the back. So then if anybody tried to pull a fast one or swap the insides out, they would have known about it. Let's do this one here. This could be an interesting one. Might be a simple one. Let's start with this, and then we can save this one for part 6. Right, let me get set up with my little laptop and find out what's wrong with it. Okay, so let's pop some batteries in and see if we have any life in this. Aftermarket back cover as well, because it hasn't got Xbox written on it there. Excellent. That's really good. Let's hit the sync button. Perfect, right, so it doesn't look like it's going to be a power issue. So let's plug this into here and let's do it wirelessly to begin with. Yep, that's synced up. Right, okay. Just get rid of this steam thing a minute. Right, let's just quickly run through and see what's happening. Right, straight away there's a problem with the left analog stick because it's just gone straight up vertical. Can you see there? When I move it down, so it moves, yeah, okay, so it's registering an up input, so that's not correct. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it off and back on again, just in case. In fact, let me just pop the batteries out, just in case it's something wrong with the software. Right, okay, it hasn't done it. Oh, I've got to do start testing. Right, it hasn't done it this time. Yeah, it's done it, you see? Right, so it delays for a bit and then does it. So there's definitely something wrong with the left analog stick. Let's zoom right in. So we need to sort out the left analog stick. Right analog stick looks to be okay. Click in works, left click in works. D-pad works, works. X, Y, B. What's that? A is working. Right, bumper. Triggers are working. Wow. Now, I mean, could it just be a left analog stick fault? I very much doubt it, going by the other controllers, but you never know. Right, let me just test out the vibration and then we need to test out the wired. Right, because of the left analog stick, it's not allowing me to do it because it keeps just dragging everything up to the top. Every time I go onto something, it just drags it up. So if I go to apply, you see it just moves up like that. So we're going to have to sort that out. Let me just try see if it's working on a wired connection. Let's plug our USB cable in. And this into here. Right, there was no vibration. There was no vibration there when it did it. So it's connecting up by wire, so it's not just an analog problem, there is a problem with the vibration as well. So it's not registering any inputs via the USB port. Oh, hold on, it went off there, maybe it's just a bad connection. Let's try that again. Yes, it recognised it there. Right, I think the USB port might be slightly iffy. Again, we have a problem with the analog stick. Right, let me go over to the old one and see if we can do vibration on this. Right, nothing's happening. Oh, there we go, there was a slight one. There you go. I think again it's a problem with the analog stick that's forcing it up. It is letting out a buzz every now and then. Right, so what do we have to do here? We have to look at the analog stick to begin with, and then I think we have to have a quick look at this port. It might just need a clean, might be just a little bit loose or something. Let's take it apart and see what's happening. Right, somehow we've got something which resembles a pube sticking out of that rumble motor there. So I'm just going to take this over to the bin and get rid of that. Okay, that's cleared. Now let's okay, the screws are missing down here, so again obviously the board has been taken apart. Looks like something's been spilt around here. Well, I think the USB port, I think it looks okay. I just think it needs crushing down a little bit. So if you kind of have a look, it just looks ever so slightly rounded. So what I'm going to do is, when I had that on the PlayStation 4 controller, what I did is I just crushed it with some pliers. The problem is, once it goes, and then it won't completely flat. So somebody said to me, put in the cable and then crush it, because then I'm not going to crush it past the cable, which I thought was a really good idea. So do you know, before we go any further, let's just do that straight away in case I forget. So I'm going to plug the micro USB into here, and now I'm going to crush down on it. Hopefully then it won't allow me to crush it more than the cable. Just got to be careful because there's lights. Do you know what, I'm going to have to use some long nose pliers. I might not have the strength in this now. Right, so I'm just on the solder pads there. That should be okay. And I'm just crushing down. Let's see if that makes a better fit. Oh yeah, much better. Look at that now. Slightly wonky, but you can see it's not as rounded as it was before. Try and crush it from this side a bit. Yeah, hopefully that will do. What I'll do is I'll clean it with IPA as well. Okay, so we think it's going to be an analog stick problem. It looks absolutely fine, but looks can be deceiving. So I think what I'm going to do is, I am going to, first of all, I'm going to pry off, because remember it's the up and down axes which has gone. So I'm going to pry off this and I'm going to take out the little wiper on the inside. Then I'm going to plug it all back in. If it's still showing an up register, then there's something wrong, because it might not necessarily be a problem with the analog stick. See, it could be something else that registers the input from here that's doing the wrong reading, but I doubt it. But still, I think that would be the easiest way to test it to begin with. So the analog stick is this one here. So let's pry open, this is the up and down. So let's pry open this side bit here. Right, so you can see I've bent that right back now. So if I take the wiper out, there's no way that those carbon tracks can actually register a fault. Maybe it somehow welded itself to the carbon tracks. Why don't you come out? Oh, it's clipped in here, look. Right, so let's just push these bits in, there we go. Now it's coming, that's it. Right, so that's that out. You can see that's the little wiper. Oh, well, to me they look perfect in there. You can see the carbon tracks there, you see. Look in here. Oh well, let's put it back together and see what's happening. No, it's still registering up because it was doing that on, I can see it moving up there. I was thinking, you know, with this seller that it wouldn't be as simple as an analog stick. In fact, it's not even letting me click on it. So something's falsely showing an up input. I don't know if you can see, but look, I can't even click on it because look at this little square here. Every time I do something, it moves up. You see? I'm trying to click on the green controller here, but it's not letting me. So I don't believe that's anything to do with the analog stick. I mean, I could try to desolder it, but I mean, I've got it completely disconnected from here. So how can it be putting an input in an up input if it's completely disconnected? There, you can see me battling here with the D-pad. Right, so I suppose we have to trace where the analog stick goes to. Well, no, what I'll have to do to begin with, let's leave all this open. Let me get another working controller, swap the boards, find out if there's a fault on the front board or the back board, just to start to minimise it a little bit. Before swapping the boards over, first impressions are, if you have a look between this analog stick here and this one here, can you see that this looks all professional, but this one doesn't? So maybe when it was getting changed over, maybe a resistor or capacitor or something was damaged, because can you see there looks like to be quite a lot of I don't know, just like solder residue or flux or something around there. Just doesn't look as good as the other one. So it looks like this has been swapped over. So I suppose what's happened is the seller got this in, tried to swap the analog stick, didn't work, and then maybe gave up on it. But what we'll have to find out is whether or not this board here is faulty, because if it's anything like the others, normally both of them are faulty. So I'm just going to do that now, and then I'll be fast forwarding through it all, and I'll tell you the results at the end, tell you whether there's a fault on both boards, or you know, one of them or the other one. Okay, I've put another front board on here, and it was still doing exactly the same thing. So it says to me that it's the back board that's faulty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my soldering iron, I'm going to desolder these points here, and then I'm going to have a good look around. I'm going to have a look around this analog stick, because this looks like it's the part that's been worked on, and we'll see whether there's something missing, or maybe something will be testing faulty. Let's unsolder these. Right, now I'm free to work on this. I'm going to first of all just go on to continuity. I'm just going to check the capacitors around that area there, see if any of them look faulty. Right, okay, so the capacitors are testing okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the little eye loop, and I'm going to have a very close look at the tracks here to see where they lead to. Right, I'm finding it very hard to see there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean it all with IPA, and then hopefully it will make a bit more sense. This looks to be a 2014 board, just says it down here. So I don't think I've got another one of these unless there's one in a controller that I've worked on. Much cleaner now, so let's zoom right in and see where these three little solder pads go to here, and that might give me an idea of possibly where the fault is. I hope it's not to do with this main chip here. Right, so let's start with this top one here. Right, so it definitely goes to this wire here, but does it also go to that one? I need to get my TV set up, I'm just looking through the viewfinder as well. Let's give it a little bit longer, see if I can work out what's happening. Right, so it definitely goes there. Right, so it's going everywhere up here because, okay, so this is a ground, isn't it? This is just connected all up to here. So that one is connected to there. What is that normal? Let me just check on these ones down here. Is it normal to have it as a ground, I wonder? So this is also a ground. Yes, it is. Okay. Right, so now this one, where does this one go to? This one goes straight over to this capacitor there. So it could be a problem with the capacitor there. But mind you, it goes down to... Oh, I see. Okay. So that goes to there, and this goes to the ground. Yeah, okay. Goes to there. Goes round, round. Uh-oh. I think it goes straight into the chip. That's not good. That's not good at all. Let me just double check that. Down here, down here. Down. I think I'm going to have to get the TV. About here maybe? Let's see. That one there. Right, okay, that's not good. That's not good at all, because if it's a problem with the chip, there's not much I can do about that. Let me try this one here. So this is going to go to this little wire here, isn't it? Yeah. So it doesn't go anywhere else, so it goes through the board. So let's see if we can trace that. Hopefully it might be a fault this side. Right, so that then goes to this one here. So I should be able to test this from the top, shouldn't I? Here to here. Sorry, just off camera. So it comes up here, this wire here, and it's this pin, isn't it? The bottom one. Yeah, the bottom one. So the bottom one. The bottom one goes to this wire, which is going to go to there. Let's just double check that. There. It's strange how it goes through the board. I suppose it's just easier to solder that way to there. So now, does that go? That goes straight to that little capacitor, doesn't it? If I went from there to here. No, it doesn't go to that little capacitor. Let me have a look for the eyepiece. No, it should go to that capacitor, and then that capacitor goes back through a wire and goes off. I don't know where it goes the other side. Let me just check something this side. It's a bit strange. So why is that not getting to the capacitor there? I know it's hard to see on the camera, but as far as I can see, this little wire only goes to here and then it goes off under here somewhere. But when I go between here, I mean, look, you can see that I can go between this prong here and the wire. There. So now I don't need to worry about the wire anymore. I can just go from here. And this, to me, is not getting to that capacitor. Well, it's not coming up on that side there unless it's... Has it been soldered? Has it moved off the pad slightly? Let's have a look. I mean, I don't think so, but maybe that's what's happened. It goes that, then it goes down to this one here. It goes down to that one there. So let's see if that shorts to there. What is going on? Okay, so this here is going to there, but why is that not going to the wire there? That goes to there. Right, so it looks like we've got a break between the wire and here. But I can't see. I can't see anything wrong there. Do you know, I'm going to set up the TV because I'm looking for a viewfinder which is too small. Oh, okay, that's so much clearer for me. Right, so now let's do this again. From this wire to this capacitor, I am not getting anything. Okay, you can hear my meters not beeping. Alright, now look, on these two boards here, I wonder if I can get a better angle for you. Yeah, that's a good angle, isn't it? So now from this wire here, my fingers are in the way now then. Right, look, from this wire to this capacitor, watch. Yeah. And again, on this board here, it's doing the same. So that's definitely not right. So I think what we're going to have to do is, I think we're going to have to use the, what am I going to use here? The hot air? Or should I use my soldering tweezers again? Or would I get away with, I suppose I'll have to use my soldering tweezers here, won't I? Or should I just use the hot air? Because I can always replace this if it all melts anyway. No, I better use my soldering tweezers because then I might not have to replace any of that. I'm wondering if there's corrosion or something underneath there, or whether the capacitor's just moved down ever so slightly and it's not, I don't know, or has the pad lifted? It's weird. Or is the wire actually broken? Is the, not the wire, but is the track between the wire and here broken? If so, it's no bother. All I have to do is run a jumper from here to the capacitor. But I think we'll try to fix it if we can the proper way, and if not, we can just use run a jumper. Let me get those cheap soldering iron tweezers that I've got. I'm just going to wait for these to heat up, and I think I'm going to zoom out a little bit to make it easier to see, because you know what I'm doing here now anyway. Now I'm going to put a little bit of flux on the board to make this easier for myself. Right, they look like they're hot enough now, so I'm just going to turn my fan on and let's try to get this little capacitor off. Right, okay, I got that off more by force rather than melting it, but either way it has come off. I'm going to turn these soldering tweezers off now because I should be able to get this back on with the soldering iron. Now I'm wondering whether I just use some pliers, so you know, my tweezers. I reckon I could have just knocked that capacitor off. Maybe the flux did make it come off straight away, but it just seemed to be particularly easy. Right, let's put this to one side. I have got spares anyway on the other boards. Let's leave that there. Now what I'm going to do is, let's get my soldering iron on this and see if we can clean up the pads a little bit and find out exactly what's going on. Then we'll know if there's a break between the wire and that, or whether the capacitor was just on wrong. Give it a little clean with IPA, then we'll have a good look, see what's happening. Get the multimeter. And see what it's testing now. There's definitely a pad there. So we're going to go from here no, so there's a break in it. There's a break in it. interesting. There must be a tiny break just between here and here. Let me zoom right in. Right, so I'm zoomed right in now, and we're not getting a reading between here and here, so I think we'll have to get the fiberglass brush out and see what's happening. Because look, that just goes from there to there, and that goes through the board. Let me just show you. So basically we're on this one here, and you can see it goes down to this via, and we know that's okay. Between here and the via we know is okay, because if you have a listen, if we go on here, remember this goes through the other side of the board onto the via, it's okay. But we haven't got anything from the via to this bit here. Which is amazing because it's so short. Let me get the fiberglass brush out and fiberglass pen. I'm going to scrape all around there and see what's happening. I don't care if I ruin it because all I have to do is a jumper wire from here to this pad and then pop the capacitor back on. Let me just double check this side here. So from here, it goes from here. I can't even see it. Oh, just to this via here. Yeah, so that's fine. And from this pad it goes down to this via here, which is fine. So it's just a break here. So you can hear it stops. Nothing there and then nothing. Let's give it a scrape and see what's happening. Really unusual for that to get damaged there. I know this has been replaced, unless it was scraped when these were getting pushed through or something maybe. I don't know. It just seems a weird place to get damaged. It's good for me though. Can't actually get to it. I'm gonna have to scrape it with a little knife. I think I can see the break. Keep scraping for a bit. Can you see just across here? And I noticed there was like a black mark there. See just here. In which case I think I could put a blob of solder on that. Let me scrape it back. Yeah, that's the break, isn't it? Let's clean it. Right across there, it's missing. How weird. Alright, I'm going to see if I can just get some solder from here to here. See if I can fill that up with solder. I might be able to because it's quite a small amount, isn't it? So let's get some flux on it and see if I can fill it. Apologies for the blurry image. The problem is the camera keeps focusing on this area here and not here, so it's not that clear. Don't think I'm going to be able to jump it. I'll put plenty of solder on the pads anyway because I need to get that capacitor back on. No, it's completely missing there. So I'm going to have to run a very small jumper from there to there. I'm thinking I should do the capacitor first. And I am going to try to run it to the via because then in the future if anybody wants to desolder this they can still do it, while if I run it from here to here, if somebody changes over the analog stick then they're going to end up ruining the jumper here. So I think I should try to do the jumper between there and there. But first of all, let's try to get this little capacitor back on. Now I can't see any markings so it shouldn't matter which way it goes. Let's just try to get this on the board here. Flicked off. Where did that go? Well, let me have a quick look, if not I'll have to take it off the other board. That's annoying. Oh, I found it. I found it. Add just a tiny bit of solder to it. I think that's on. I think it is. Let's get a little solder wire on between the end of the capacitor and that wire, and then we can worry about testing it. Now my little 0.1mm enamelled wire has arrived, so let's try and use that for the first time. Right, I'm really sorry about this, it's not even funny anymore. I keep forgetting to press record. Right, okay, so basically, let me just explain what I did there. I have run that tiny little jumper now. I'm really sorry. I've been waffling to the camera for the last 20 minutes until it all went black. And then I realised that it's gone into standby because I wasn't recording again, and it's not the first time it's happened. I really apologise, I don't know why I keep doing it. So basically, what I did is, I got this tiny little wire here. Yep, this is like 0.1 of a millimetre, and this is enamelled wire. So what I got is, I got this end and I scraped it with the blade because this is covered in enamel. So I put it on the mat and I scraped it like that, and then what I did is I tinned it with my soldering iron. So I got my soldering iron and I tinned it, put a little bit of solder on it, and I then tapped it onto the wire first and then dragged it over and put it onto the capacitor and then gave it a good clean up. Now what I was saying is, originally I should have cleaned the wire better because it's only gone onto the very edge of it here, which is fine, it's all testing okay. But if you have a look, you can see I don't want to push it, but it is stuck to it, but it's not stuck particularly well. So what I'm going to do is, it's testing fine. In fact, let me show you that now. So basically, you know now if I go from here, this point here, it goes all the way down to this wire. Hold on, there you go. It goes all the way down to this wire here because it goes through the board, up via this wire goes to the capacitor, goes round to here and goes to here. So you can see now that it is making a circuit, and this side of the capacitor just goes to the ground, which is here. So it's all, it looks like it's all doing okay. But I'm going to put a blob of glue gun on here because I'm thinking it's not on very well, and it would only take maybe a few drops of the controller to possibly make it loose. So if I cover this area here in glue gun, then you see it's just going to adhere the wire via the glue gun to the actual board itself, because it's nice and clean because I've done it with IPA, and it would just give it that added bit of protection. It probably would be fine as it is now, but I think it would be better. Now what I was saying is, I hope now this doesn't give weird readings on the analog stick, because remember, the analog stick works by, this is like the wiper in the middle, goes between here and here, and then it knows the resistance between here and here and here and here. So by me changing this track over to a 0.1mm wire, how do I know the thickness of that track? Maybe this wire should be, for example, like my other wire, which is 0.25mm. So if you put a thicker wire in, it's going to change the resistance, and if you put a thinner wire in, it's going to change the resistance, because remember, this has all been measured so that they know when the analog stick is all the way up, they take a reading and then it knows what that reading is. But now when the analog stick is all the way up, If I've changed the resistance ever so slightly by this thin wire, it might give a weird reading. So when I put this back together, I might well find that when I go, for example, up and down as well, and down, then it might give me different readings than it did before. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But let's get the glue gun on it, and then let's see. I mean, maybe it's not that fussy because it has to allow for wear on this carbon track, or maybe it really is that fussy. I don't know. We'll soon find out. I'm just waiting for the soldering iron to heat up, and actually, I'm happier at this angle than I was before, because you can clearly see the wire's soldered nicely to the capacitor. And it is on that wire there. It would be nice if there was a big blob on top to properly stick it down. But it's definitely on there. So, yeah, I think once I put a blob of glue gun on there, I think that will be... There you go, look at that. There. I think that will be a lasting repair. Right, let's put a tiny blob of glue gun. I hope this isn't going to backfire on me. There you go. Well, that's good. That's completely covered it. Now I have to test now to see if I've still got continuity through there or not. I have. Excellent. Right, okay. So what I have to do now is pop the wiper back in and try to close up this analog stick. Okay, that's back in. Excellent. Yeah, that went in really nice. Oh yeah, that was a nice, good sort of confirmation click. Right, let's put this back together and see what it's going to do. Right, while it's all apart, I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up with a wet wipe. The way the buttons are done on this, because you can see it's like moulded and then it's covered in clear plastic. They look really nice. They're not just kind of painted on. So even if you were to wear that down for ages, it would still say B. They're not just painted on the top. It's lovely. Right, I've got some spare screws here to put back together, so it can go back together properly. Right, so that's all the screws in it. Let's solder these things back on. The grey goes to positive. Okay, that is it. Nearly put back together. I haven't put these on yet. Really, I should have tested it before putting it back together, but you know, I feel fairly confident, but that could be completely wrong. Right, let's see if it turns on. Good, so it's still turning on. Let's get the little laptop again. Perfect. Look at that analog stick. Look at that. Yeah, there's 100% all around. Let me just try small movements. Right, that appears to be okay. Do you know what though? I think it moves quicker. Well, maybe not. Hold on. Let me see. Let's zoom in a bit. I'm wondering if it moves quicker, because I'm just wondering about, you know, when you replace that track there. Right, watch this now. So you can see this here, and obviously if I go up, it goes all the way up. Let me just go small bits. So I'm there. It's only gone to there. No, that's okay. Let me go this side. Yeah, you know what? It is different than the right analog stick. It's quicker, so it moves through the range quicker, which is not going to be ideal on a lot of games. It's still an analog stick because you can see I'm moving small amounts, but I wonder, did it need to be thicker then? Let me see, hold on, left and right. Reaches there and I've still got that much to go, while this only reaches 100. Yeah, but there you go, that's the proof. Sorry, I've worked it out. Right, with this one here, watch. It will only get to 100% when I'm at the end of the travel, yeah? Now look, I'm at the end of the travel, I can't go any more. While with this one, look, it reaches 100% now, yeah? And I've still got all that travel there. Can you see there's loads of travel there, up. So now, well, hold on, let's try to work that out. So that says to me, hold on now, see this is where I'm no good. If it was a thinner wire, there's more resistance. So it thinks, with the potentiometer, it thinks it's all the way when it's not. So in other words, I needed to put a thicker wire in there, didn't I? Yeah, I need to put a thicker wire. Well, okay, do you know what? I'll put glue on there now. I could go back and do it. I'm wondering whether it is actually going to be an issue or not. But maybe I could put a thicker wire in just to see, and then we could, you know, just purely for the video really, I could just fast forward through it all so you don't have to sit and watch it. I'll tell you what, let's see if we can do the vibration. Yes. Right, let me see if everything's moving. Yes, I can feel the triggers. That's that one there. Wow, so it looks like in this instance here, the seller has only sold me something that's faulty with the one board. In fact, just the one fault. That's fantastic. Let me just quickly try the other features. They're working, they're working. Definitely nothing wrong with the A button anyway. Click in, click in. Yeah, that's all working fine. Right, because this is a relatively easy fix, I am going to go back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 0.25mm enamelled copper wire. So let me show you that one. I'm going to use this one here because this is slightly thicker, and then that might be more like the trace. Remember, it was on my mind, I was thinking it, and I was proved right that obviously it's not behaving the same. I might even have to put 2 of these in to get the right reading. But that's really interesting that you can play around with that to actually mess around with it. I'm just thinking, so in theory, if somebody wanted to mod their controller, could they not put in some kind of like variable resistor or something, and then that would adjust the triggers? I know you can adjust it on, you can adjust the dead zones and stuff, I think, on the Elite controller, but in theory, shouldn't you be able to do it on these if you were to put some kind of maybe a variable resistor in line? So, you know, break the track where I broke it, and then bring it out to possibly on the back where you could just, you know, do it with a little screwdriver. You should be able to do it that way, shouldn't you, rather than going via software, like a hardware side of it, you know? Anyway, I think that's quite interesting. Right, so let me take it apart again, and I'm going to do that. Let me just double check to see if the wireless is working. Up there, let's just do a quick start testing. Yeah, that's all working fine. Let me just go to old and do the vibration. No. Right, so it's not buzzing. Oh, there we go. Sorry. That seems to be a bit intermittent. Hold on. Do you know, before we go any further, I'm going to connect this up to the Xbox because look, it is working, but not all the time. maybe it has got two faulty boards. I'm not sure, it seems to be very hit and miss. I'm going to connect it up to the Xbox, I won't bother filming it, and I'm going to see if it is actually working, the vibration's working or not. So I'll get back to this in a little while. Okay, I said I wasn't going to film it, but look, it seems to be working fine. Every single time I do it, it's working. I'm glad I checked that out, because otherwise I would have been fault finding something with that little laptop app that isn't actually a fault. Now I'm going to do exactly the same but on a wired controller, and then I'm going to update it because it needs an update. Right, okay, see now, no batteries in it. Interesting, it does it on the release. Right, I'm happy that that's working absolutely fine. Right, let's update this. Okay, so the controller has been updated. Let's swap this little 0.1mm cable over to 0.25. As well as that, look, there's no batteries in it, and it is keeping sync when I'm wiggling this now. So obviously by just tightening up that USB port, it's helped that problem out. Actually thinking about it, when I plugged it into the little laptop, it didn't vibrate. Normally when you plug in the USB port, it vibrates, so I reckon there is probably something a bit iffy with the vibration on it, with the rumble. But if it's working on the Xbox wirelessly and wired, then does it really matter? But saying that, if you were to use this on a Windows 10 PC, then maybe it would make a difference. Or possibly does my little laptop maybe not give out as much oomph as maybe a full-on PC. You think with USB it would still be 5 volts, but I don't know. Anyway, do you know, for the purpose of this video anyway, I think I'm not going to worry about it, because you've seen it working on the Xbox. And it's going to be hard for me to fault find. It's going to be hard for me to fault find that, because I already had problems with the vibration before, didn't I, on another video. Yeah. I was told before that IPA takes off glue guns, so let's see if it does. And start to lift it that side, definitely. Right, let me keep putting it in there. Yes, look at that. Wow! It really does lift it off. How fantastic is that? Right, let me have a close look in here now and see if that wire is still intact. Yes, it is. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave that wire exactly where it is, and I'm going to put another wire on top of it. So let me scrape this one over, because I'm thinking that's 0.1, this is 0.25, it's still only going to be 0.35, it's still going to be a lot less than the track, isn't it? Might even have to put 2 lots of this wire on. I haven't got any thicker wire, you see. I'm not going to use a telephone jumper wire, it's going to be far too big. Right now you'll probably see what I didn't film first time round, so I'm scraping off the enamel, and then I'm going to tin it. Now when I solder this one on, there's a chance that I'll probably unsolder the existing one that's there. There we go, so that's got solder on it now. So now let's see if I can get this on here. Right, it's on there. Let's use the multimeter. Yep. Right, okay, so that is it there. You can see the wire is going from the via to the capacitor, and I've also got the other wire still underneath it. So hopefully between both of them, they might give me a better reading. I hope they don't give me a worse reading. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put a blob of glue gun on it again, close up this thing, and test it again. Now I know it doesn't look like it's stuck there because I can't see the solder, but I think the solder's underneath it, because when I wobble it there, it is actually stuck. Obviously I don't want to do it too hard, because remember I did tin it, so it's probably stuck underneath. Okay, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of glue gun here again. There we go. And let me just wipe up the remains of the glue gun. Give it a quick test to make sure I haven't knocked anything. No, that's fine. And we have to close this up. Perfect. Right, I have to now put everything back together and test it again. I've noticed there's quite a bad scratch on this one here, going across here, so I have got a spare front, so I might as well use it. This is fine, it's more than usable, but you know, I might as well make it look better if I can. Right, let's see what it's doing now. Let's zoom out. No, interesting, it's no different. Look. So I've reached 100% and I've still got that much to go. That is interesting. I suppose the good news is, when it comes to the analog stick, I know it depends on the game, but let's say now if it's a racing game, you want it to be more analog left to right, don't you? Because that's when you're doing your steering. And left to right, I haven't touched. So look, hold on. So we reach it there. We've still got a bit of play there. See, I haven't done this on other controllers to see. I'm only going by this right analog stick here. Do you know what? Let's connect up another controller. Let's turn this one off. Let's go back to the blue one that we did at the beginning. Right, so I'm at 100%, yeah, and I'm at the top. 100%, yeah. Okay, so that's definitely an issue, but I don't know how to remedy that. I put in a bigger wire and it's still doing exactly the same. It hasn't made any difference at all. Hasn't made any difference at all. That is weird. Right, I'm going to connect it up to the Xbox and have a little play around and see what I think of it. Okay, so I've just been mucking about on different games, and obviously with a racing game it's not going to make a difference, and with things like a 2D platformer. But I'm on Fortnite now. Do you know what? If I hadn't tested that on the little laptop, I think I would have thought this is a normal controller, because look, you've still got the control over it. So for example now, if I want to go slow, I can go slow. If I want to go fast, I can go fast. I don't think that many people would notice, if I'm honest with you. I suppose it really does depend on the game. But I'm just thinking on the games that I've got, I don't really think it would make a difference. And I suppose it's more important for it to be on the left one. Sorry, it's better that it's on the left one than the right one, because if it was on the right one, then when you're kind of like trying to aim, you would find it probably harder, because if you want to do a tiny amount and it kind of goes up to there, then you're going to find it a lot harder. So if anything, it's much better that it's happened on the left stick. I mean, I don't know, if you know games that it would be unplayable, write it down in the comments, but I'm thinking that I don't really think it's going to be a major big deal, because how many kind of first-person shooter games and stuff like that have that many degrees of speed? You know, is it just going to be kind of slow, medium and fast? I mean, on this one it looks to be slow or fast. It doesn't seem to be, you know, it doesn't seem to make any difference. So I'm thinking that it's not really going to, I don't really think it's going to make any difference on it myself. I'm happy with that fix. It's a shame it's not perfect, but I don't know how to solve it. I think even if I put in another wire, I'm thinking the same thing's going to happen again. I'm wondering now, could it be that little capacitor, you know, the capacitor that I moved? If, for example, that had been, I don't know, I mean, if that was out of range ever so slightly, could that be the issue? I really don't know. Or, I mean, could it still be to do with the actual analog stick itself? I didn't even think about that, did I? Could it be to do with the analog stick? Where the resistance of the carbon trackers change and it's making it do it. I think it's unlikely, because it looked to be in pretty good condition. I would say it's either to do with the fact that the wires I've used are not thick enough. The thing that I'm unsure about that is, I put in that much bigger wire and it didn't make any difference. If it made it slightly better, then you think, oh yeah, if I added another 2 or 3 wires, it would make a difference. I'm wondering if it's something to do with one of the capacitors or something en route to wherever that goes to after that, you know, en route to the chip. I don't know. If you know what it is, add it down to the comments. But you know what? I'm taking that as a fix, because beforehand the controller was unusable and now it is completely usable, but it's not perfect. And I'm just going to quickly check the buzz. Yeah. There we go. So do you know what? Yet again, for me, a really enjoyable one. It's nice to get the soldering iron out. It's what I like is finding. It's not so much the actual fixing of it. I like the kind of investigation, the finding of it, and thinking, oh, you know, why have I got continuity here and not here, and then kind of working out, cleaning it up, and then seeing a physical break, and then you know you fixed the fault 100%. Well, not 100% in this instance, but I love that, rather than kind of like, oh, have I done it? Haven't I done it? You see a break, you fixed a break. Job done. So yeah, I've got one more to do on these, and I'm really going to miss it when I've finished it. Now on this one, it looked like just the one board was 40 again. So there's another thing that I'm unsure about, and that's the vibration. So yes, it's working fine when it's connected to the Xbox, but when I plug it into my laptop, it doesn't give me that initial little vibrate. So again, I think there's something slightly iffy with that, but if it wasn't working completely, then it would be easier to fault find, but you've seen it work sometimes and not other times. So again, I think it's probably going to be to do with maybe something that's gone out of range, maybe a capacitor or something that's gone out of range. Again, unless I'm going to unsolder them all to test, it's going to be very hard for me to find that. So I don't personally believe that that warrants looking at it for kind of the next 3 or 4 hours. And if it fails again in the future, then it would be a nice fix-it video to try and find it when, you know, when the rumble feature's not working. But right now, I'm happy with how this one has turned out, and I'm looking forward to doing number 6. So just before I go, I just want to show you, if any of you watched the video I did on the little Sony Cyber Shop, well, I got a battery for it, and I got an SD card, and I got a charging cable for it. And you know what? It's a nice little camera. It's been working well. I've just tried doing a couple of pictures and stuff. It works pretty good. So let me just show you. I put them onto my PC as well, and they come up really, really clear. So I'm happy with how these have come up. I think that this might be a keeper. Right, so that is it. I just wanted to add that in, just so you know that I did get the battery and stuff for it. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe for the part 6 of this video, also the PlayStation 4 controller videos, and hopefully in the future plenty more trying to fix videos. Take care, bye now.